Welcome back to College Football Addiction. I've got Stingray back with me from the Stingray Show. Steven, how you doing, bud?
Good. How about you, sir?
Pretty good, no complaints. We're one day closer to college football, although this season is flying by, and I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily a huge fan of that. Um, but
Yeah.
it's been a good year so far. A crazy year, in a year that I don't think many of us would necessarily have predicted some of the things that have happened this year,
I know.
namely
Uh,
with Alabama.
yeah. Tennessee owns the state of Alabama by Alabama losing to Vanderbilt and Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay. So a little surprised by that, obviously. Like I thought Bama would go in, and after Tennessee, I know Bama had just struggled with South Carolina. I know they lost to Vandy. I get all that, but like
Right.
Tennessee really should have lost to Florida if not for Billy Napier kind of like out coaching himself. And so it was a struggle for me to see Tennessee being able to hold Alabama's athletes down when they really didn't hold Florida's athletes down. And so, I mean, all credit to the Vols, and confidence is a heck of a they once
Right.
confidence built, like they kind of got it going, and Nico hit some deep balls. But man, like if you're Alabama, what is the concern level? Like, is it a full-blown 10 panic concern level, or where are they?
Are you ready for this? They are literally ready for November the 4th when college basketball begins. I mean, they are to that level right here in Tuscaloosa. They've lost two games and the season's already over. Mail it in. Let's get ready for Nate Oates and the number two ranked Alabama Crimson Tide on the hardwood. That's how unrealistic these Alabama fans are because still, even with the two losses, if you run the table and beat LSU on the road, you still have a shot to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so all you got to be is one of the top 12 seeds in the playoffs. And they are really close to that right now. However, they have got to take care of business throughout the rest of the season. One more loss, and they're going to be playing in a New Year's Day Bowl compared to the playoffs.
Yeah, and you look at their schedule. I mean, going into Baton Rouge. I mean, LSU's been good this year. Again, I don't know how they haven't. I don't think LSU's been elite. They got a big test this weekend in A&M, but
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, like the rest of their schedule sets up really, really well. Now, this is also a team that's lost to Vandy and struggled with South Carolina. So yeah, like anyone could get them, I guess. But man, Missouri with maybe a backup quarterback. We'll talk about that game in just a moment. But
yes,
Auburn, Oklahoma, obviously they're not going to lose to Mercer. It really just does come down to that LSU game. Like at the end of the day, I'd be pretty surprised. And again, I'm saying that in a year that Vandy got them, I'd be
right.
pretty surprised if anybody but LSU beats Bama on the
Yeah,
rest of the schedule. So like, it's not. I mean, it's not over for Alabama just yet. Now, if you lose to LSU, then I think it's okay to just fully check out
yes,
and go to
yeah.
basketball. But they shouldn't be checked out yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, that's just how spoiled Alabama fans are right now. I mean, based off of the dynasty that Nick Saban built. And of course, they're not happy with, Kellen DeBoer smiling after a 2-point win over South Carolina. Nick Saban would have been all up in the grill of those players. And, that's just not who Kellen DeBoer is.
Yeah.
And these Alabama fans are literally losing their mind because Kellen DeBoer is not doing what Nick Saban used to do and chewing everybody out.
So I want to ask about DeBoer in a moment, but
Okay.
on the Missouri game specifically, Bama a big favorite. I think it opened up at like 2 touchdowns. Now there have been some injuries that have been confirmed or suspected. It's up to like 18 points now. It may continue to rise. Missouri, the last I saw that was that Brady quarterback is doubtful.
Yes.
I don't think he's been upgraded to fully, or downgraded, I guess is the right word, to fully out, but seems like they're likely without him this weekend. This would be the game, I think, that if Alabama wasn't able to pull this one off against a backup quarterback at home after getting beat by Tennessee, which just doesn't happen, this would
Right.
be the game where I feel like they'd melt down. Although I don't know how much they really have to worry about this weekend.
I know. Well, other than the two guys on the outside of Luther Burden III and Theo Weiss, now those guys can create havoc for anybody if the quarterback has time to get them the football. Also of note, Nate Noel is a no-go. He is out for this game this weekend. So that's going to put more pressure on the backup running back to be able to carry the load for this Missouri offense. So they are potentially down Brady Cook, and especially Nate Noel will not play Saturday.
It becomes, if you're looking at it from the Missouri's perspective, it becomes, I mean, not only are you going to probably deal with a very, pissed off Alabama team that they've lost 2 games, you're doing it undermanned. And even with their full complement of players, they haven't looked very good this year. If not for Auburn choking a game late, they have another loss. They really probably should have lost to Boston College in Vandy earlier in the year, and then they got absolutely decimated by A&M. So it's a miracle, I guess, that Missouri's still ranked. I don't expect them to be after this week, but is there even a path for Missouri to win this game?
Yes, if Alabama continues its sloppy play. If Alabama has another 10 penalties for 115 yards, then yeah, that plays into Missouri's hands. And also with Jalen Milroe being very, very careless with the football because he's had some major turnovers the last few weeks since the Georgia game that make you scratch your head and going, what were you thinking there? So, yeah, I do see a path for Missouri if Alabama gift wraps and hands them the football. Otherwise, if Alabama plays a clean game, they probably win by 17 or more.
Yeah, I think, you would hope,
Yeah,
and maybe not if you're a Missouri fan, but you would hope to see Alabama play a little bit better than they
right.
have played.
Because
Um,
that defense is just completely in shambles right now.
yeah.
And hats off to Kirby Smart and Georgia in the second half for exposing Alabama's weakness on defense. And that's carried over into the Vanderbilt game, the South Carolina game, and then, of course, the Tennessee game as well.
Yeah. Um, you kind of thought maybe earlier in this week, 2 teams struggling. It was only a 14-point spread. Like this was an opportunity for Bama to come out and I would hate to use like make a statement, but like a ranked team that you were playing, a team that, you've not been very good, but you can maybe embarrass them and get back on the right track. But now because of how hobbled Missouri is coming into this thing, it doesn't even feel like Bama could win this thing by 24. And I don't even know if people would even care. They'd be like, well, you beat just a terrible team that also was banged up and played a backup quarterback. So to me, Bama has everything to lose and nothing to gain in this game. And honestly, it's really the Bama season almost, which even if they win out and make the playoff, it's still gonna feel underwhelming. But the Bama season, to me, just like we said earlier, comes down to that LSU game next week.
Mhm. Well, and I will also say this as well. Here's another key. Alabama's offense struggled against the number 4 defense in the country. That was the Volunteers of Tennessee. Missouri comes in with the 9th ranked
Mm.
defense in the country. So there could be some problems, and this could be a game where that Missouri defense is going to have to carry their offense and create shorter fields for them and take some major pressure and or I'm sorry, take some major risks in order to create turnovers and negative plays for the Alabama offense.
So I'll get a prediction from you in a moment, but first I want to talk a little bit about Kalen DeBoer and just your thoughts on this. How much blame do you think? Because obviously the fans hate. I'll back up. The fans hate the smile. Like he's just not Nick Saban, right? Like I get it,
Right.
but how much blame does he really deserve here in year one versus how much credit does Saban get for not having the stuff like Vandy, the stuff like South Carolina, the stuff like Tennessee go on under him? Like, is it maybe unfair to DeBoer, or is he a large part of the issue here? Like, team having no identity? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
I think it's a culture issue, especially when you saw what Malachi Moore did again at the end of the Vandy game by throwing his mouthpiece and then kicking the football. There's obviously no discipline on this football team, and I think it has been taken over by the players, and that the players are running it, so to speak. I mean, it's just, 10 penalties for 115 yards. And once again, not only do we have this year, but towards the end of the Saban era, we had multiple games with multiple 10 and 12 penalties for over 100 yards. So maybe it's not the coaching issue. Maybe it's the players that they are recruiting that have this mentality of, hey, I'm invincible. I can do whatever I want to do. I think it's a culture issue from the players that are being recruited, not necessarily the coach, because we are now on two different coaches that are having the same issues at Alabama. Now you've got to look and say, what type of players are we putting on the field?
What's your thought on how this goes down? Do you have a score prediction in this one yet?
I'm going 28-24 Alabama and another struggling performance on offense, but I think their defense gets one more stop that they need to win this game.
Stingray, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work, bud?
At Twitter, Steven Ray 30 on Twitter, and then on YouTube as well. You can find me at, let's see, it is meteorologist Steven Ray, and all of our podcasts are right there on YouTube as well.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you, buddy.